Tip of the day number 10. Honor caretakers and healthcare workers supporting people affected with COVID-19 in your community. Acknowledge the role they play to save lives and keep your loved ones safe. Need help and support? Please contact us at the hotline 311, psychosocial support at 722-6575 or 518-4157. Brought to you by PAHO, the OACS Commission, and UNICEF.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.
Who shall connect? C'est boss Alkila. Yo père, nous got tout le monde qui vote by Flambeau et tout le monde qui gagne vote by Flambeau. Chasse c'est un mauvais coq bataille. London we going. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, voté. Voté, voté. 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 Chasse n'est qu'à faire pays à bien. Kenny pas te fait un bagaille. Actuellement, moi qu'à big up guy. Bokay, moi pas ni à falay. Ezekiel Joseph. C'est un bon petit boy, big up Spider, Herman Gill, actuellement à travail. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. 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 Bill, Sierra Flood, Anvil Pack a Flood, Dominic, Mary Isaac, we put in the tipper right back. Big up hero, big up king. You know that we can win. Big up hero, big up king. You know that we can win. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. 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 Ça c'est qu'a fait pays à bien. Kenny pas te fait un bagaille. Actuellement, moi qu'a big up guy. Bokay, moi pas ni à falay. Ezekiel Joseph, il c'est un bon petit bail. Big up Spider, Herman Gill, actuellement à travail. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, voté. Voté, voté, Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Bill, Sierra Flood, Anvil Pack a Flood, Dominic, Mary Isaac, we put in the tipper right back. Big up hero, big up king. You know that we can win. Big up hero, big up king. You know that we can win. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, 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 voté. Flambeau, nous qu'a voté, voté. Voté, voté.
Okay, I want to tell you that I played it because I wanted to show that Al Prince to do a music video could get access to St. Jude's site, but the duly elected by the people in a democratic fashion in the elections, the duly elected members of parliament representing the opposition have been denied access to the same exact site. But that's not why I played it. I just played it because I liked the video. I'm not even talking about no real effort to try to sync the audio and the video of Herod or London or the other people, but I just, okay, I'm sorry, I was being sardonic here. Yes, it is Friday, folks, Friday, the 11th of May, 2021, or the 6th day of the 6th year of the 5-year term of the Shastney administration. Yep, an expired government now sits in office, and after they have stolen so much from us, now they're stealing perhaps the most precious thing of all. They are stealing their time, our time. They are stealing our time. They have definitely overstayed their welcome, definitely frustrated and not only marginalized the people. And as we enter this political heating up of St. Lucia, as it gets hot on the ground, you know what's going to happen. Every case, because apparently UWPs cannot spread COVID. Only Labour Party people can spread COVID. So if it's a Labour Party guy that they perceive to be a bus driver, then he'll spread COVID. But you can have an entire event of over 60 people and a death, including the UK variant and our only super spreader at Royalton. But nothing for that. That's how it works. And even though we have 15 cases of the UK variant, we had 0 people testing positive when they had to depart to go back to their country. And that's the kind of epidemiological stuff that we get. And they'll tell you that there's community spread. And funnily enough, folks, we have managed to be fooled and veiled into believing that a community means it must be soufre. A community must mean canneries. A community must mean castries. Community must mean grosley, babono. That's the only way we identify community. But folks, you have hotel plants, you have banks, you have call centers, you have supermarkets that are communities in and of themselves. They have a lot of workers in a call center, hundreds. So it's not a community. But you see, that's where they play with the mind. So folks, we're going to start today. Although I guess you could say we already started vote, right? But we're going to start today by listening to the PR and recognizing that the reality is that we have a gaping hole in our approach to COVID.
I did hear the president of the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association yesterday giving a small piece regarding the current situation, and she was saying that we only have had about 53 or so persons coming in who have tested positive, 53 non-nationals.
Since July 2020, we have hosted approximately 45,000 visitors, all of whom are required to adhere to very strict protocols. To date, there have only been 53 COVID-positive cases diagnosed that were non-nationals.
That's a really high number considering that we're not doing any testing really of non-nationals. If you were telling me that every single person who came in as a non-national was actually tested on island and we knew, okay, that number 53 was coming out of that pool, right? That would certainly mean a lot. But how many really did we actually ever test? Because we were only ever testing persons who may not have come in with the right test done, or may have had some sort of symptoms, or may have shown to have been symptomatic at the time when they came in.
In terms of the visitors, we put in the strictest protocols.
Unless if we are willing to prioritize our own people and their welfare, and including the welfare of individuals who are expected to go out to work, who are being asked to go out into these areas, which are effectively high-risk environments. And we're asking them to do so, but we're not ensuring that they are being able to do so in a truly safe environment. Because what we have currently is not quarantine. It's really not quarantine. And I think if anything we should be learning from the month of January, it is that. But it does not appear, based on what we're seeing coming out of the statements made by the Prime Minister yesterday, that there's a willingness to change. That there's really a willingness to go the route of doing what is necessary to be able to protect the lives of people at this point in time. And this is perhaps a difficult reality and a difficult truth to speak, but it has to be spoken. Because we are dealing with human beings, and we can all take the responsibility of wearing our mask. But if we are wearing our mask and the visitor is not wearing theirs, then it defeats the whole point, because really and truly you wear your mask to prevent yourself from spreading the disease. That's the first and foremost reason why you're wearing your mask. That's actually the biggest benefit from mask wearing, so that you do not infect somebody else. So if you have a situation where all the staff are properly wearing their masks and you have visitors guests at properties who aren't wearing their masks. There's still a major risk that we're dealing with.
So let us now properly define community spread, because let's think about this. You're driving a car, you keep putting in gas in the car, and you have 10 big gaping holes in the car, in the gas tank. And you wondering why you keep running out of gas by the time you drive a mile, half a mile or whatever. You smelling the gas, you seeing the gas pouring out, but somehow if you just say that it's not the case, then that makes it not the case. So we have cases, and you see the memes that come and the cases, and they tell you, please keep washing your hands, keep sanitizing, get vaccinated and everything else. But the gaping hole still exists. So, again, I use the same analogy. What's the point of having personal protection equipment? Give you a whole hazmat suit. You cover your arms, you cover your torso, you cover your legs, you cover your... everything is covered, and your head is still totally exposed. What is the point? But we cannot speak about that for some reason, because of our colonial mentality that has been reinstilled in us, that we must silently see things, and in pure pluralistic ignorance, we all know it's happening, but we all have to pretend, to the point where we even manage to dumb ourselves down, much like our government, and forget. And then we admonish each other. You're not wearing your mask. Why y'all not wearing masks? Oh, y'all running politics. Y'all coming together. Too many people, a crowd of 30 and 40 and this, that, and the other. And then look at this. Now, isn't it great that these people at Calabash Cove, the workers, have a mask on? Wonderful. Did you see gloves? No. Now, even if they are vaccinated, even if the people who are the tourists there, they are not wearing masks, they don't have to be vaccinated, they don't have to take a second test. They can order tests and take them at home up to 5 days before they come down to St. Lucia. And they can come there, and the girl is there and they're singing, you know, hey, wine for me. No problem, no problem. So here's what happens. The 5 or so tourists that are there, their fumes from them not wearing masks goes onto, the droplets go onto the clothes. They go onto the hands, they go onto whatever. You say, oh, they change uniforms. Not all the time. You say, oh, they sanitize. Not everywhere. It could be in their hair. The girl goes home. She goes to sleep next to her daughter or her boyfriend or her mom or whatever, and then they get it in the community. So somewhere in Sanssouci or somewhere in Morgouge, somewhere, you know, and somewhere in the back of there, somebody gets that there now, right? Calabash Cove. So you go, Calabash Cove doesn't get in the statistics, just like Sanders or Windjammer, right? And don't forget, the visitors don't have to abide by our COVID laws. They are exempted from the laws that apply to us. So then you hear that there's an outbreak in River Dory. There's an outbreak at such and such school, you know, in Margaret Tooth. You hear something like that, you know, somewhere in Corinth, wherever, there's some outbreak. And then we get admonished. We get admonished as a people, and we have to feel dejected, and we have to be the ones who feel, you know, like demoralized, and we're not fighting the good fight, even when we have, for the most part, been doing that. But if we cannot have an honest discussion about the recurring decimal that is the effort to bring tourists in and give them a loophole, I want you to think about what mentality it takes for you to want to believe you can buy your way out of COVID responsibility. You see something that's killing people in your community in New Jersey. You see something that's killing your community, people in your neighborhood, somewhere in Ottawa, or somewhere in London, Manchester, you're there, and you're coming down here, and you believe that you can buy your way, you can pay to ignore that reality. Because our tourism product, like I've said many times before, is a fantasy. We come to the Caribbean to escape problems. We have no crime, we have no problems. Our people just smile, man, and they walk on water to come and bring you your food and your drink. Servile, yes, just like how it was, life in the colonies has not changed. Our tourism product has not changed. That's not an accident. That's because there are people who have a vested interest in keeping it that way. One more example.
Nothing's lighting up. The sun is lighting up. Shade on the sun. Now it's lighting up.
So, for those who say, how can the tourists enjoy their vacation with masks on? Well, you see there, some of the tourists are wearing the masks. Some have it below their chin, and others don't have it at all. What's worse, you have some of the staff there, the St. Lucian staff down in Sulphur Springs wearing their masks. You have some that don't have their masks. You have some that have it on their chin, same speed. So you know what the problem is? That person will stay there. They'll get it from some of the guests. They will go home. They'll sit down somewhere in Zeno. They'll sit down somewhere, Palmis. They'll sit down. And then you'll hear, oh, so Herod will come. Blah, blah, blah. I'm hurrying. I want to put blah, 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 blah. There you go. There you go. And now in the Molotov cocktail that is the politics and electioneering, we will lose sight of the fact that our biggest problem is still the fact that we have changed protocol. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 50 people. You can play golf, you can play a contact sport, you can't play this, you can't do that, you cannot open your business that way. All of these things keeping us teary. And in the meantime, no protocol adjustments have been made with regards to second testing, with regards to, and look, there's an ad that plays in the breaks here. The Ministry of Tourism on health and whatever, and here what they say, the tourists must wear masks when they're out in public. And you already have just shown you, that video is what, 3 days old? And I've shown you that they're not wearing masks when they're out in public. They're not wearing masks when they're on boat rides. They're not wearing masks when they're on tours, whether sanctioned or otherwise. At the exact same time, they're telling you out in public. But here's the problem, folks. Why are they still being allowed to not wear masks in the hotel, just like I showed you with Calabash Cove? Unless we address that, then the only other thing we can wait for is herd immunity, while in the meantime, people die, people get sick, and nothing for that. This is the revolution. Stay tuned.
We can win this war. Can't vaccinate. We're taking our life back. Can't vaccinate it.
Now that there is a vaccine, I am very optimistic that we can return to a sense of normalcy very soon. And that means having that first fete, that first concert, that first party. Encourage your friends to get vaccinated so that the sooner we get to this herd immunity, the sooner we can be out there again. The chance to see our local and international artists on the stage performing again to a very captive audience. People enjoying themselves, people relaxing, people letting go. This, for me, is what I would really like to see. So, go out, get vaccinated, let's make it a reality.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Tell them that one I need. Don't you know your love is so divine? And I'm wanting you, missing you, wanting you. Say don't you know your love is?
I want some melody.
And I'm wanting you. Listen, tell them that one I need. I since the camera got to the mentality. The picture in my head is me and you holding on. No wonder they come up with some sweet little sound. And when it's different, you can hold you. Like the Peter White for Brandon the younger. But take your time, second long because we are younger. I don't like back and I neither confusion. Rush into this thing, then things will be wrong still. Don't you know your love is so divine? And I'm wanting you, girl. Missing you, wanting you, girl.
Once again, Secret Beach. There you go. One step for Canada and one backward step for St. Lucia.
And I'm glad that you even raised the whole issue of land, because, you know, that's the other major issue that we have. Let's just say, for instance, that the developer actually purchased the property for 30 million EC dollars. And that's about 300 acres of land. So if you do the math, you know, 43,560 square feet in an acre, it works out to be about $2.20 per square foot. But if you just go to screen, just briefly, and we're going onto the Cabot website. If you could just go to screen, please, and just showing the Cabot website again, right? And you just look to the part where it says featured listings. You would see right there, there are 44 lots apparently. Now remember, this land hasn't been approved. We haven't gotten approval. There hasn't been release of lots or anything of the sort. But we're being told that 22 lots have been sold. And we've been told that there are 20 lots of that first phase, right? So there are 42 lots apparently in this first phase. And there are 20 more to be sold. But when you look at some of these lots, let's look at just like lot 33, all right? Lot 33 is going for $1 million US. And that's 10,930 square feet. So if you again just do a very quick math here, you have $1 million times 2.7, all right, divided by 10,930 square feet. So you're getting 247 EC dollars per square foot.
I'm a product of Canada.
I am St. Lucian. I'm a product of St. Lucia.
I did my high school in Canada.
I went to school in St. Lucia.
I did my university in Canada. Both my kids go to school in Canada.
I went to university of the West Indies. I'm a proud St. Lucian, and I feel St. Lucia is the best place in the world.
Andrea, I'm a proud St. Lucian.
I'm a product of St. Lucia.
I'm a product of Canada.
The thing is, he says he's a product of Canada. Yeah, Quebec. He was there 11 years in Quebec. The rest of Canada can't stand Quebec because of their attitudes. So take it from there. He's a product of frickin' Quebec and Martinique. They can all kiss my ass.
What do you get when you elect somebody who does not share your values as a people? You get somebody who's willing to stand in front of our flag as our nation's leader and extol himself as being a product of Canada. Not that he went to school in Canada. I went to school in Canada too. I also went to school in VG. But no, I also went to school in the Anglican school as well. But no, you couldn't say that. I'm a product of Canada. I'm one of you guys. And how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in how high-handed Cabot has been with us, how they have broken our laws and treated us like we are dogs that need to be chased out of their yard. They are disregarding our protocols, disregarding the procedures. They are denigrating our heritage and destroying it, which I will show to you very soon, at bull speed right now. And then you have to ask yourself, in truth, does Shasney care?
I wish to represent Answer and Canaries. Given where we are the ones who are going to suffer most if the Prime Minister continues to go along the way he is doing. The World Bank produced a report, the Poverty and Shared Prosperity Report 2020. And it makes very clear that 5 years immediately after a pandemic, things get progressively worse for those at the bottom of the ladder. 5 years.
Yeah.
So the Prime Minister will be long gone. He will be having his, whatever it is, going back to where he's a product of, where we will have to deal with the consequences of his clumsiness and his incompetence.
And aren't we already dealing with the consequences? Aren't we already losing beach access? Aren't we already losing funding that should be going towards our unemployment benefits, stimulus, small business, all of these things that are not happening because of the Prime Minister's incompetence and corruption, and the rest of the cabinet being in league? Everybody from Spider to Gail to Fortuna to Mary, everybody's in league doing it as well. Bradley, Herod, Estee, all of them are in it. I don't even have to mention Fede. Fart in a spoon, insignificant. My point is, folks, that the reason that people are treating, in fact, Van Jones, for those who watch CNN, he made a point when it came to Trump, and he spoke about Trump's election being a white lash. And he said, under Obama, if somebody stood up in a plane and said they didn't want to sit next to that Muslim or that black guy or whatever, right? Even though they were being racist and bigoted, the point was it was illegal and it was wrong, but they also felt that the president, you know, the administration had a tone where they would not tolerate that type of discrimination. Under Trump, those people felt empowered. Haven't you seen the way that the elite class of St. Lucia has felt empowered under Chasney? Corruption on steroids, and they're not even hiding it. Even the corrupt ministers are not hiding it. They're just going through, just like with the Pajoa thing. We'll get to that. But my point is, the people who are now in league with them, like Cabot, like Fresh Start, like Tewa King, they're basically just spitting in your face. Puesa, and finish with that. You want an example? Well, not difficult.
Quite apart from the decision of our National Insurance Corporation to provide financing for the purchase of the 300-odd-acre site, the ecological and archaeological sensitivity of the area has raised concerns about how the developers are moving forward with the project. To get an idea of the area's historical and archaeological value, I spoke to a professor of Caribbean archaeology at a Dutch university who conducted a dig at the site a decade ago.
Well, the site actually was known since the 1960s because it had been investigated by the Archaeological and Historical Society before, together with the University of Florida. So from that time, it appeared in the literature already as a very important site. It was called the Carib Ceremonial Center.
Despite the years which have elapsed, Hoffman says that there still may be more to discover about this major site of indigenous activity.
There is still a lot more to it than we have been able to rescue. And of course, the site of Kazamba is not the only site in the area, because if we look at all the north coast, there are more indigenous sites. So indeed, it has been part of an assemblage of small villages, probably, along that whole northern part of St. Lucia.
So it was an extended community. In fact, the archaeologists have acknowledged that it was a community and the burial site was part of that community. So you cannot separate the burial site from the community. And therein lies, beneath the ground, at Kasaba, going west and going north, important undiscovered treasures and history notes.
Jean-Pierre laments the island's current standing in the area of museums to house treasured artifacts. The onus, he says, falls on the government to develop such an entity.
We as a people need to ponder anew what direction our so-called development is taking place. It is too haphazard all over the place, and in the process we are destroying ourselves. My grandmother used to say, "Même si ou fait ou passa tout bonnement." Even if you are hungry and you are poor, you cannot be anyhow. You have to have dignity. You have to have principle. You cannot sacrifice your principles for your privileges. When you do that, you tend to lose both. And that's what we are losing.
The archaeologist urges the public to not stand idly by, in his view, as the island's rich history and patrimony are sold to the highest bidder.
Finola Jennings-Clark talked me through the use that's made of it by a variety of St. Lucians and visitors alike.
It's an area that's quite heavily used by St. Lucians for anything from fishing, grazing horses, hiking, through to wedding shoots and camping and, you name it, basically. There's a lot of uses. And the biodiversity.
Cabot executives have assured public access to the 3 beaches bordering their proposed golf course and private residencies. Cabot escorts and golf carts will be provided to usher locals along new access points to get to the beaches. Rehani Isidore has more.
Cabot Links executives recently briefed the Cap Estate Residents Association on what to expect during the project's construction phases. Cap Estate residents also got the opportunity to address their concerns. Beach access was a key issue, despite Cabot's repeated assurances to preserve public access.
All developers must provide access to all beaches, and what I've described as to how that will be done has been accepted and fits within the law.
Casabah Beach, Donkey Beach, and Secret Beach will be enveloped in Cabot's plan to build a world-class golf course, resorts, and private residences on more than 340 acres. The old way of getting to those beaches will change. Cabot CEO Christine Thompson, equipped with visuals of the new beach access points for locals, says the company will incur the expenses to cut new roads and even install new amenities.
This piece of land is because we attempted to try and acquire or get the government to try and acquire some of these lands to relocate Marjorie's restaurants, etc. But these are all privately held. That did not work out. And this piece of land here, which is labeled Lot 235, is Crown land. So this piece is owned by the government. And the plan is that we would build Cabot at its expense, would build a road, a new road. We brought the MP to the area, the Ministry of Physical Planning down here, and they very much liked the plan. So they're in the process of taking that back to Cabinet for approval. So we, Cabot, would sort of build these facilities. And Marjorie and the sort of road to the beach would be replaced by this access and this plan.
The land earmarked for Cabot's sprawling project has been privately owned for decades. Despite previous attempts to build hotels in that area, the land has largely remained untouched. That was until last December, when Cabot unleashed their bulldozers to prep the land for construction. Public access to Donkey Beach and Secret Beach, although assured by Cabot, will however be impeded by hotels and exclusive condos. The alternative? Supervised escorts for locals.
If you enter through the area where the crown lands are that you're building the facilities, can you from there walk into the property and get to Donkey Beach is what I'm trying to understand.
No, you can't, because the resort sort of is obviously not on Queen's Chain, but the secure resort sort of starts behind that. So that would be walking over people's private property. So no, you can't do that. You can walk all along Casabah Beach and you can be escorted to Donkey Beach or Secret Beach. But you cannot walk from Casabah along the coast to Donkey and Secret Beach.
Save for the guided escort, several other hotels on island built on beachfront property have similar public access arrangements.
We need to be escorted. Like, what are we, criminals?
Is it that this Cabot company is so selfish that after purchasing land for almost next to nothing, that they cannot even say to themselves that they can give us a proper road that will take us to our beaches? Richard,
and they have to escort us.
And they have to escort us, right? Now, I heard an official from Cabot making reference to state lands, and it is being taken to cabinet, and of course the expectation is that cabinet will approve it. They made reference first to land that is privately owned, and they said no, well, this couldn't be purchased. Of course they wouldn't invest their monies in that. That is after they were not even willing to pay a $9 million interest to us. They cut us short, right? After getting our monies and our land.
But they made so much profit they could have afforded to just pay us off one time, eh?
But exactly. I am saying to you, can we say that this is a company that is dealing with us in Lucia as solutions in good faith?
So, fast forward to now where we've caught them with a fudged up archaeological report which was bought and paid for by Cabot to get the results that they wanted. They were called out by the National Trust, and then the National Trust finally got to have some degree of access, and immediately they began to demurti this whole thing that there's nothing of archaeological value there, even though this has been a prime archaeological site since the 1960s.
Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. This quote by Edmund Burke forms part of the basis behind the aggressive move to uncover the historical and cultural history at the archaeologically sensitive site at Casabah. The second visit to the site by archaeologist Dr. Reginald Murphy was done in collaboration with volunteers and members of the St. Lucia National Trust.
We didn't find any of any more skeletons other than what was previously found and are housed with the Archaeological and Historical Society. But we did find a substantial amount of artifacts which helped us to look at the diet of what persons were eating there. We know that they were eating marine species, but we were surprised that some of the species that they were eating, including what St. Lucians know as chip, they seem to be consuming a large amount of chip and buigo.
Intricate pieces of pottery and decorative bird figurines were found at the site. Corporate Services Manager at the St. Lucia National Trust, Janine Compton-Antoine, asserts that the site is teeming with relics waiting to be found by archaeologists. Another volunteer describes the experience of discovering historical artifacts of national importance.
It was great just to be able to dig up artifacts that have been in the ground for like 600 years. Like my colleague was saying, you understand a little bit more about the Amerindians, what they ate, what they did, and their lifestyle. It was very intriguing.
The Casabah site is believed to be one of the first locations of the Kalinago or Carib tribe's earliest interactions with colonizers many years ago.
The site is giving us an increasing amount of information and awareness about how our Kalinago ancestors were living in St. Lucia. And also this site, although it's a pre-Columbian site, it is known to be a possible contact site between Europeans and the Kalinago.
Compton-Antoine challenges the government of St. Lucia and Cabot St. Lucia to ensure the protection of the sensitive site through a collaborative effort with the St. Lucia National Trust to develop an enclave for future learning and discovery that visitors, the public, and students can utilize for research purposes.
That the government of St. Lucia should designate that area as a site of learning and memory, and have an interpretation center, constructed there that would house the artifacts, the skeletons that were found on site, and also allow it to be a living area so that students, for example, from Sir Arthur, Form 5 students doing the SBAs, can actually come in and do research. So the social studies students can come in and look at possible cultural aspects, dietary needs, dietary requirements, what persons were utilizing in that area, looking at, for example, the botanical species that presently exist there and were they being utilized by the Kalinago during that time period. Also, allowing persons who may be interested in archaeology to learn the aspects of doing an archaeological dig on site. So I think that really and truly that the government should work in collaboration with the developer and the general public to have that area set aside for the benefits of St. Lucians and for the visitors as well, who can also engage in and fully immerse themselves in the history of St. Lucia.
The trust says that the archaeological priority area is located largely within the Queen's Chain, and more archaeological investigations are required to unearth the history of St. Lucia.
To add to that, if you think about sustainable tourism in terms of donut economics, an integrated development where the people who came down to St. Lucia would get to see Marjorie's as an authentic bar, St. Lucian and her story. What is tourism? Tourism is storytelling. It's not about sun, sea, water, and sand. There's sun, sea, water, and sand in almost all the countries. What makes us unique is what our advantage is. We cannot be more Grenadian than Grenada. We cannot be more American than America, but we can be more St. Lucian than anybody else. So having an integrated development where you could have had sustainable tourism, people coming to tour and get this, a sense of their history. You go to Marjorie's restaurant, you get, that sort of integration. Not just a Canadian enclave or a Canadian colony there, but hey, we're the products of St. Lucia. And Shasney is more than happy to give 300 acres away to Canada, which, dwarfs us to say the very least. But what's even worse than all of this is that long before COVID, Vindictive, as in the Prime Minister, took the subvention away from the National Trust. And they have been fighting their best to stay afloat as an organ of government. They are part of government, and yet Shasney defunded them. But then turn around now and to say that they're not fending for themselves, they need to make money, they this, that, and the other. The whole point of a conservation society, an organ created in part by Sir John Compton, Robert DeVoe, my father and others in 1975, was to be that watchdog part of government. Just like you have a Ministry of Planning, just like you have infrastructure or the Ministry of Health. It's that important. But to the hacks of this government, the house slaves,
The National Trust now talking about implementing, cost-cutting measures, including layoffs, spending cuts, salary reductions, reduction in work hours, things like that, so that they can stay afloat. Okay, and I think they said that they're going to be meeting with the Prime Minister to see how, or what is it that he can do to intervene. Because remember, they got a subvention which was stopped a few years ago, so they've had to kind of like struggle on their own. And Charlie, when you see you're used to doing something and you're forced to do it, then you have to find innovative ways, and it can be very, very challenging, depending on what kind of organization it is. Because when you think of, for example, maybe certain organizations can do certain things which may attract supporters, and you can make money from doing those things. Some organizations are more challenged, because I think of the National Trust. What is it that they can do, to boost their income and so on? What more can they really do?
But you see, Andre, the thing is that too, a lot of organizations has to be blamed, and a lot of people have to be blamed, government and first to begin, Andre, for you to have an organization like this, you're supposed to have somebody with a business-minded person who can lead. It's not because, Andre, you're a good engineer, you're a good lawyer, you're a good doctor, you're a good mechanic, that you're a good business-minded person. So you need somebody who can run the business. This is what you can get involved with. So the people out there, they never run a business. They have a trust, maybe government giving them money. So everybody. So that's the problem we have, Andre. That's the problem. A lot of the business that's running, they have no idea how to run a business. They sign checks and they don't care how. Because the money is just coming there.
Right.
But you have to make decisions. You have, like people have real estate, right? They'll know how to rent, who to rent for, how long they can rent it, and all these things. I'm
just saying, Charlie, but for some organizations, it's a lot more challenging. For example, look at hold on, Charlie. Hold on. Look at the Castries Constituency Council, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, and they are going through their challenges. Okay, and the last I think the CEO inside there was saying that they have property that's available, that they may look at maybe selling those properties and see how they can, now add that to their their revenue stream and so on. Okay, that's one idea I heard being bandied about from the CCC. And I'm thinking, an organization like the CCC, what more can they do? I mean, what more can you do?
But Andre, the problem
So the
is
same
that
thing with the trust, with the National Trust. I'm saying, and Charlie, one time you said that you can help them make money, right?
Let me hear some If I was the
of your
government,
ideas.
I would have gave somebody and said, look, this is.
What about you? I mean, you. One time you said it on the air. You said it that you have some ideas.
Give me
and
the
stuff.
trust and say,
right,
Charlie, you run
right.
it.
So what would you do? What would you? I'm curious to make some money.
Yeah, I think of ways to make money.
Oh, you don't know? You didn't know?
No, but I don't know exactly all the properties they have. I know for sure they have the Walcott House there, which just closed, and you could have tours when the tourists was really, you could have tours, people passing there. There's they pay to an entrance fee. You could have make a lot of money. You have what you call it, the island down at
Maria Island?
Right. I don't know there. I've never been there. Never been there.
No.
We'll give St. Lucians an opportunity. There's a way you can, protect the tours and make sure that you don't destroy anything there. People would love to go down there and review. Money making. Yeah, properties.
Yeah, but Charlie, but how much money? How much money?
I mean, how much money?
Because Charlie, we're looking at, for example, we look at Pigeon Island, for example. Yeah, Charlie. Right? I mean, I've been there a million times already. Okay, now. I don't really have a reason to go back there.
Let me tell you, when you see that tourist boats, you can't get a place inside there. The beach is packed. When there's tourist boats, Andre, a place jam-packed.
Yeah, as you said, when they have tourist boats.
But
and Charlie,
every single day they used to have...
At $5, I'm saying $5.
$5 a lot of money.
US? I thought it was EC.
See, the people pay US
Oh, okay,
money.
sorry. Okay.
And they have other property. So you want a business-minded person to run the place. Can't have the same people doing it. They never run a business in their life. Money coming in, what you call it?
So you think that's the solution?
That's the solution.
Okay, so does the same apply for the CCC?
Well, the government will give them subvention again, and they'll still find the same situation.
Now I'm asking for the CCC.
Well, I don't know much of the CCC, so but I'm saying this is the problem we have. People never ran a business before. They run it after, and you're still doing the thing the same way over and over and over. And come on.
Well, boy, they caught between a rock and a hard place, and it's so bad that now they have to go and meet.
I bet you if they make Michael Chasney there, then they say how to run it. In a year's time, they have money in the bank like a joke.
Business magnate Sir Michael Chasney has rebuffed calls by the opposition for an election date announcement. The commentator, who is a regular on UWP media, is also the father of Prime Minister Alan Chasney. Supporters of the main opposition St. Lucia Labour Party marked the 5th anniversary of the June 6th general election by taking to the streets on Sunday, striking cooking utensils, urging that the Prime Minister call the elections. The Secretary of the National Association of Driving Schools, Kingston Jha, was detained by police after causing a disturbance outside the government leader's personal residence. Sir Michael vigorously defended the capital works policies of the current administration during his latest appearance on the Sky FM mid-morning show.
In 2021, when common sense prevailed, the SLP finds nothing better to offer than the same regurgitated stuff which left the St. Lucia economy on autopilot. That's what the Prime Minister found, a country on autopilot. This election remains the turning point in the history of St. Lucia. Based on the infrastructure in place for the next step towards a meaningful progress, it is often said, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah.
My father always told me, and my mother, and I remember that. The fact that individuals like the persons visiting the Prime Minister's home at 5:30 a.m. knocking empty pans is a true sign of stupidity or lunacy or both. Stupidity or lunacy.
Brother Peter both. Said that.
Whichever way one analyzes the episode tells the story.
The UWP media commentators have argued that the COVID-19 pandemic had robbed the Alan Chasney administration of the opportunity to complete its mandate of building a new St. Lucia. In late 2020, some suggested that the upcoming general election should be postponed to afford the UWP government more time to conclude its policy agenda. While the Prime Minister lacks the legal authority to postpone the election, he does have the prerogative to announce the date. It should be noted that elections in St. Lucia are constitutionally due no later than October 12, 2021.
Whether the Prime Minister calls the elections now or in October, what is the big deal? By October 2021, the tourism product would have returned to near normal, and 14,000 tourism employees would have returned to their jobs, and the economy, by extension, would be one small vibrant. Is that the concern of the St. Lucia Labour Party? 50 days from today, the Rodney Bay Road project should be officially opened. The old Dyer Mall is well on the way. The Millennium Highway will be in full swing next week. The Grace Treatment Plant will be officially opened, and the Wasco headquarters in the south will be completed.
Sir Michael, who proudly displayed photos of the construction of key projects, took issue with the resistance to the government's pro-growth agenda. The co-hosts of the Let's Talk Now program characterized critics as obstructionists they believe are standing in the way of infrastructural development. The National Trust, which announced the discovery of new artifacts near the disputed Cabot project site at Casabar, were also taken to task.
You know, Sir Michael, the guy, the National Trust, they came out, they said they have found new artifacts.
Yeah.
And some guy told me it was a chicken bone. You know, a guy went up there. A guy told me somebody went up there with a girlfriend.
I listened to one of the senior officers on the air talking. Here's what the lady said.
Yeah.
Now that they found that they need to build a place and have people from the Sir Arthur Lewis come and have classes there so they can further educate themselves. Educate themselves for what?
Educate themselves for what? Just like fathers, just like son. You can have too much education. You don't want the people to educate themselves. You don't want the people to know their history so that they will not repeat it. That those same ancient burial grounds there are tied to even our Peters, the most well-recognized symbol of the entire Caribbean, not of St. Lucia, not of the OECS. Right? All of the worship of the Kalinago and how they used to worship it and all the rest of that. All of that tied. But you don't want us to know our history because too much education is a danger to the elite class. You see? But they get educated. They send them to Canada to become products of Canada and all the rest of that. Well, with all due respect to Sir Michael Frankenstein, the fact of the matter is that what was pointed out there is quickly being erased because here you have a lot of the discoveries being made on Queen's Chain. A lot of the discoveries have been made on Queen's Chain. And folks, as of just yesterday and day before yesterday, look at what has happened since we have found, and the National Trust has unearthed a treasure trove of artifacts on Queen's Chain as part of Cabot. Let's show the photos. Let's go in sequence. Photo number 1. So, from Casabar Beach, you can see right in the same archaeological zone. What's that in the distance? Heavy equipment. Let's show the next picture. There you go. And yes, folks, the Cap Estate Associations, the National Trust and so on, have confirmed that the Commissioner of Crown Lands does not have Queen's Chain leases yet. So they are not allowed to be doing anything on Queen's Chain. So Hennex Joseph has said that they have not received the leases yet. So they are not allowed to be doing anything on Queen's Chain. And look exactly what they are doing. Destroying, quick bull speed, the exact artifacts that have been found. And they are not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do anything within the Queen's Chain area. Now let's come back to me for a second. Now, folks, I hope you remember, and if you don't, I'm going to give you a little bit of a reminder, that the Ministry of Planning, the technocrats there, warned the cabinet that in many cases, not only was there great value in the Queen's Chain lands that Cabot wanted. Cabot actually stated that they wanted the Queen's Chain for no golfing purpose, but they wanted it to curtail access by St. Lucians to their own land through Queen's Chain. In other words, they did not want people to access the beaches. They literally have land that is identified by planning as not being suitable for golf or has any use for golf. So that meant that even if Cabot did its development properly, the artifacts that they are destroying right now on Queen's Chain, they did not need to destroy it even for golfing purposes. How do we know? Let's look at the planning submission to Cabinet, which Cabinet whitewashed, overrode, and still gave them 75-year leases. Let's put up the next page. Now, I want you to see, look, you see the amount of area, and you see the area at the bottom circled? That is all of the archaeological zone. Now, I want to zoom in on that picture, and I want to show the archaeological zone so you get an idea of where you see the second beach, right? Second beach. This is not so big as shown here, whatever. That area there is exactly where the heavy equipment is, as we speak, on Queen's Chain, destroying the archaeological evidence unearthed there. Now, next photo. So, folks, you need to understand that the Department of Physical Planning, and I'm just giving you a couple of excerpts, and let's zoom in on that a little bit. Right? The Department of Physical Planning does not recommend the approval of the applicant's request for a 99-year emphyteutic leasehold agreement over the public beach known as block and parcel number 1675B3 or Secret Beach. Strongly recommends that this beach remain a public beach for ongoing access by all St. Lucians. The Department of Physical Planning does not recommend the applicant's request for two 99-year emphyteutic lease agreements over the block and parcels 1457B369 and 40, which jointly form the natural wonder of Turtle Bay, the Turtle Bay beachfront on the Casabar Beach, right? The Department of Physical Planning informs that the Crown properties collectively forming part of Property 1, Property 2 are essential to the well-being of thousands of St. Lucian nationals and non-nationals whom on a daily basis use this space for private and commercial economic reasons. Additionally, unhindered access is a requirement for the continued monitoring and safeguarding of the northern coastline and borders of St. Lucia by private residents of Cap Estate, Casabar, and the wider environs of the Gros Lake community, the National Conservation Authority, NCA, the St. Lucia National Trust, the St. Lucia Archaeological Society, private security firms, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Fisheries, and most importantly, folks, unhindered access is consequential to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and Marine Police, who don't have the access. That the Department of Physical Planning, in proper presentation to the Cabinet of Ministers, shall address the requests of the applicants in the not-too-distant future in relation to the following subclauses, namely, freehold property, block and parcel number 1457B, access to the public beach, easements, and servitudes under the Crown. Now, easements, folks, simply means that the roads that were already existing, since they have existed for over 30 years, those were the roads that were supposed to give continued access, not only to those who just wanted to go to the beach, but also to the police, to the people, for our national security. So if we have people coming in back door, if they're killing people like what happened to Oliver Gobar, those kinds of things, we don't have access to New Little Canada colony over there right now. But they can give you a little golf cart to go up there and you can be escorted. Let's go to the next page. Right, let's go up, right. There are additional existing local businesses which operate currently on the Crown property, including kite surf, craft makers, horse riding establishments. That this parcel of Crown property serves as a daily base camp of economic activity with numerous and organized safari touring groups, bird watching tours, hiking tours, running and fitness groups, wildlife and bird life watch groups, and they utilize and maintain and occupy this pristine place as a source of economic, recreational, spiritual, and educational benefit. That the Crown is the registered owner of block and parcel 1457B40 Queens Chain, which forms the only natural turtle bay in the whole of St. Lucia, folks. This naturally shallow sandy enclave, which remains free of all Atlantic Ocean sea currents and riptides. The Turtle Reef Shelf, which forms part of parcel 40, shields by providing a treasured and high-demand swim space experience for all St. Lucians and visitors alike. 3.17, the St. Lucian Archaeological Society and the St. Lucia National Trust have flagged this parcel of crown land as of national significance, being of national significance and importance as an Amerindian burial site, along with the valuable historical Amerindian artifacts that have been found and unearthed. This was all presented to Cabinet. The Department of Physical Planning takes cognizance of the ongoing public protest. I'll skip past that because we saw that. Jack don't want me to bathe on my beach. And let's go to the bottom. Right? The Department of Physical Planning notes that the required socio and environmental impact assessments for the applicant's proposed Cabot development project remains due, and they gave an old expired one from 10 years before, and they still don't have it. But this is the most important part, folks. The Crown is registered owner of block and parcel 1657B3, collectively forming part of property 2. That this is predominantly cliff edge, over which all public right-of-way accesses over and to and from the other bounding Crown properties, right, also known as Secret Beach, herein referred to as property 1 and 2, is derived. Now go right to the bottom there. That the cliff-like terrain of block and parcel number 1658B3, collectively forming part of property 2, is not suitable for a golf course, and therefore cannot form part of the applicant's proposed golf course. I'm reading that part again. It is not suitable for a golf course and therefore cannot form part of the applicant's proposed golf course project. And what did Spider do? What did Shasney do? What did Hera do? What did Fede do? What did Sarah do? What did King do? What did all of them do? They gave it to them anyway. Now, come off for a second. So folks, here you have Cabot that does not need the land, that particular part of land. They don't need it and the Queen's Chain for the golf course part. But they are still destroying it today, right now, as we are sitting here, as y'all are watching me beat my ass here. They are destroying it right now in a race to destroy the artifacts, rather than let us at least get whatever we can of our heritage preserved. Let's show another picture. There you go. That's closer up. So you can clearly see that they are on Queen's Chain, destroying what they don't even need for the golf course. These products of Canada. All of these products of Canada. Okay, we'll come off the pictures because Adrian Auger already made the point. If we don't find a way to rediscover ourselves before it is too late, then you know who will lose the election? We will not just lose an election. We will lose ourselves if we do not vote for ourselves, for our heritage, for our country. It's about us.
No man loses his shadow except it is in the night, and even then his shadow is hidden, not lost. Partial recall is not enough. Silent acceptance is not enough. And as I said to the hotel guard who wanted to search my car, I will not assist you in my own enslavement. It is not enough to forget and carry on. It is not enough to want a job and a mortgage. This small gathering of the few and the favored is not enough. And the pitiful sum devoted to the celebration of our two greatest sons can never be enough. Our thought, which provokes our art, our creativity, our cultural expression of deepest self, should be as energetic as those actors I first admired. Aggressively, uplifting and inspiring, first to us and then to others. We must shine as brightly as we possibly can. To do otherwise is to surrender, to imagine a struggle over which has not yet been won. George Lamming, speaking about the castle, In the Castle of My Skin, one of his first novels, speaks of a tragic innocence to which it seems we are in danger of returning. He identifies, quote, a dimension of cruelty that seduced black people into lasting bonds of illusion. And I quote further, it was not a physical cruelty, it was a terror of the mind, a daily exercise in self-mutilation, black versus black in a battle for self-improvement. This was the breeding ground for every uncertainty of self. George Lamming. It would seem that uncertainty of self, that terror of the mind, is still with us and will only deepen if we continue to dismantle the already incomplete understanding we have of ourselves. Walcott is hopeful, and I quote, that deprived of books, a man must fall back on thought, and out of thought, if he can learn to order it, will come the urge to record, and in extremity, if he has no means of recording, recitation, the ordering of memory. But Walcott comes to that truth with his sound colonial education and the luxury of being able to say, I read, I travel, I become. But that was never universal. Not then, and certainly not now. The struggle cannot be over. Our allocation on tertiary education is a quarter of what other developing countries typically spend. We are underinvesting in research, innovation, and development. This is no secret, this is known. So it is entirely possible that we are only building two-dimensional citizens, characters in the postcards we peddle to tourists. There is more to that process than benign neglect. Our development strategy has failed to create conditions for advancement of our people in their own country. Indeed, by most indicators, we are under-delivering in all aspects of state responsibility: education, health, security, environment, social and economic infrastructure. With limited options, we are trapped in spirals of dependency. Here is Walcott's take. This is how the islands, from the shame of necessity, sell themselves. This is the seasonal erosion of their identity, that high-pitched repetition of the same images of service that cannot distinguish one island from the other, with a future of polluted marinas, land deals negotiated by ministers, and all of this conducted to the music of happy hour and the rictus of a smile. With such limited internal prospects, we just end up exporting our brightest citizens to the very countries on which we already depend for trade, investment, aid, and debt. A single country is now our largest single creditor. That is Taiwan. More than 50% of our debt is held with one single country. Heaven help us if the politics of that nation changes. In essence, we are living a perversion of Sir Arthur Lewis's model of development. We are becoming trapped in a downward spiral of low wages, low growth, high debt, and high dependency. If there is anything sustainable in that formula, I will take a vow of silence now, and the state will be finally free of this meddlesome priest. Derek and many others have spoken of this for decades, but our outcomes will not change unless we alter our trajectories. So for those who want something new to be said, let them first admit that they have in their various positions of power, influence, and subterfuge done nothing to alter the narrative that they find so boringly repetitive. It is no crime to assert or admit that we need fundamental change. It is a crime not to pursue that change. So we cannot have superficial conversations. We cannot be afraid to speak about a love of self and a love of country as essential components to our economic prosperity. The irony of our times and the nature of the global marketplace is that it levels everyone and everything into clips and sound bites. It demands little of us, beyond consumption and obedience and the occasional storming of the national capital. But we require thought, we require agency, we require determination as our defenses against that tyranny of the mind. We can return to fundamentals. We can design a new humane economy. We can power our own restoration. Derek also believed that and expressed it in this way. Antillean art is the restoration of our shattered histories, our shards of vocabulary, our archipelago becoming a synonym for pieces broken off from the original continent. Kenny Anthony once said to me, and I asked his permission to repeat this. He said, Adrian, if you keep telling politicians they are the problem, eventually they will stop listening. And of course, he was right. So as I close, I want to dispel any notion that politicians are the problem. Indeed, I want to loudly proclaim that politicians are the solution. Better politicians, honest politicians, enlightened politicians, brave politicians who put their people first. That is the people who actually elect them, as opposed to the people who pay for their campaigns. I said earlier that I have great faith in the Caribbean consciousness, our ability to rebalance, our sense of when to correct, when to change course, or indeed when to change governments if they need changing. And if I am to keep that faith, I must also believe that even 4 decades later, our anthem is still right, calling us to love, oh love, our island home. I think it is instructive that our anthem begins and ends with love as a paramount ingredient. We need love to support, to survive, to prosper, whole, intact, conscious. So we must rediscover and reassemble that love of self, of land, of light.
Street party c'est jou ça là. Pas ni l'argent encore. Si nous tous prenons responsabilité et faire ça nous ni pour faire. Bagay la kay marcher et nous tous kay manger. En nous tirer la peine nous kay danser encore.
Wear a mask. Wash your hands and maintain a 6-feet distance. If we keep St. Lucia safe, we can keep our economy running.
Thanks for tuning in to your favorite content creator, UTV. To find out more, follow us on our social media platforms: YouTube UTV124, Facebook UTV124, Instagram UTV124, Twitch UTV124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV, TV for you.
Thank you for staying with the Revolution. Now, when you listen to people like Dr. Adrian Auger, you get a sense and you remember what it is to be St. Lucian and all the possibilities of who we are, who we were, and who we could be. And sadly, we have become comatose, paralyzed by the sewage that we call a cabinet. And the descent now that we have to go into is the contrast I want you to feel from a hopefulness and a prideful state as we went into the break listening to Adrian. Now to see that the only thing that we can bank on with this government is corruption.
want to tell you a travesty of the United Workers' Party. In January 2016, when we were in government, the Ministry of Infrastructure wrote a letter to the Caribbean Development Bank on the 12th of January 2016. That letter was sent to the bank to replace all the lights, 21,500 of these high energy lights in the country. We wrote the letter to the bank and we said to the bank, that is causing a drain on our resources. That is not helping our carbon footprint. That is causing the government $11 million a year to pay for these street lamps. And the president of the CDB recommended to the board of directors for a loan of US $11.6 million and a loan to Lucilec of $1.146 million and a grant to the government of US $30,000 from the Resources for Climate Action and Support of the CDB. The CDB said that that project was so good, it was such a well-conceived project, that they would waive some of the requirements. They said, instead of having us to fund 20%, they said they would fund 90% and we'd only have to fund 10% because of the quality of that project. But the CDB said that Lucilec will have to implement the project. Lucilec will have to implement the project. So you know, Lucilec implementing, that means government ministers not involved. Fresh start, there can't be no fresh start. There can't be any direct award. There can't be any friends and family. You know what these guys did? These guys cancelled the loan. They cancelled the loan with the CDB and they said that they will give the job to somebody in the private sector. You believe a government that is serious would cancel such a loan that would save the country 58% of $11.5 million per year. So wait and see, just wait and see who will get the contract to replace the lights in the country. The contract will be given to a friend, to family.
A charge on the consolidated fund must receive a parliamentary guarantee. On the basis of that letter, it is safe for me to say that it appears Guy is the whole of Parliament. Because if Guy Joseph can guarantee $167 million for a company that he intends to contract with, then he's the whole of Parliament. But let me tell you who Pajo is. Pajo is a local company that was formed in 2015. Good, you all see it there? Pajo's Limited, company number 2015C118. If a company needs a letter that is essentially addressed to anybody who has money to lend them, whether it's the Chinese, the Taiwanese, or even the devil, it means that that company is not worth a grain of salt. Folks, Pajo Limited, although having a letter to go around to source $167,400,000 Pajot share capital last year. When they file, its share capital say toute l'argent was, you will not believe, $1,000. It's right there. You pass at the moment, share amount of stated capital. If you look at the third column on your screen from your left, amount of stated capital, $1,000. $1,000. But they are given a letter. They are given a letter to raise $167 million. Davis Max Johannes. Aren't you the brother of Bertram Johannes? Bertram Johannes, aren't you the one used to work by Caribbean Metals? Oh, okay, I'm not sure. I'm asking. Bertram Johannes, are you not the one responsible for giving out contracts on behalf of Guy Joseph in both Castries South and Castries Southeast? Don't you control all those CDP projects? In fact, I even have a couple of contracts, Bertram Johannes, that persons, I have the documents. They said, you give them the contracts. So folks, Bertram Johannes, the brother of David Johannes, Max Johannes, who's the registered director of Pajot Limited, is Guy's right-hand man. If I lie, say I lie. 167 million given to company. Company, Davis Max Johannes, Kenan Johannes. Davis Max is brother to Bertram Johannes. Bertram Johannes is Guy's right-hand man who gives all the CDP contracts in Castries South and Castries Southeast. Connect the dots.
So let's connect the dots and simplify this for the average person that doesn't know anything about Pajot. But they know about Guy Joseph, they know about this government, and sadly, the operating procedures, which even if you think they're nefarious, you still cannot keep track of. Here you have a government who came into office with a Jimmy Fletcher and Philip J. Pierre well-negotiated, well-packaged deal loan to replace all of the street lights that we had that are costing a ton of money with LEDs, light-emitting diodes. These lights would have saved us over $6 million a year in electricity costs. Only problem was, for Guy Joseph and company, that Lucelec would have been in charge of the project, and therefore they would have given out the contracts without any minister being able to push their hands in it and give it to their friends or their family so they could get their kickbacks and eat and eat and eat. So they canceled the project. And Guy Joseph, completely outside of his authority, he's not the Minister of Finance, he's not the Prime Minister, and he's not the Parliament, gave a letter of guarantee to Max Johannes and his son's company. His son, Max Johannes' son, not even being old enough to be a legal director of the company. The boy's in school right now in Florida. And Max Johannes, who is pretty much known for being a bullshit artist any which way, and nobody knows what he does for a living in the general sense, it would appear, when you try to do the research, but has a company that only has $1,000. But yet Guy Joseph, totally illegally, signs a document that he does not have the power. He's not the Minister of Finance, he is not the Prime Minister, and he is not the Parliament of St. Lucia, who would have to go to guarantee money out of the consolidated fund. Goes and gives Max Johannes with his $1,000 company to go all over the world and shop the letter to find somebody who's willing to pass $167 million through a company that only has $1,000 in order for that company to do the works in terms of the lights being changed. And you have all kinds of bobolists like Cornbread and all of these people involved in this racket. But Guy Joseph started off denying it.
So, proof of payment, then you enter into contractual agreement with the company. The government is also committed to repaying the loan of the 62 million once the projects are successfully completed. So if there's no project...
So the guy gets the money and completes the project.
Then you are committed to pay.
So remember, that by Guy's logic there right now, he doesn't admit signing the letter. But if I want you to think about this. What if Edmond Estefan just decided that he was going to write on behalf of Lynch and give Lynch a letter? Go and tell the people you want to do a project and you can borrow $1 billion and the government will pay for it. Right? Just think about that. Or if Sarah Flood just said, Synergy, give a letter, just write out. If government ministers could just do, in fact, wait, but it's happening. It's happening because we've exposed this for over a year and a half, well, 2 years now. And this is the thing about this government. They have already made up their minds how much money they want to take for themselves. So no matter what, they still go ahead. You'll wait, the news cycle will move on, and we forget about St. Jude's, we forget about this, we forget about that, and then they come right back, and all that time you think they come right back. They never stopped pursuing their nefarious goals. They just wait for you to get tired, for you to move on. And here we are today.
Well, alleged letter of comfort, which according to the minister, Mr. Joseph, he says it's a letter circulating in the media. I'm just, quoting him. And he seems to be brushing aside the fact that this is a serious matter for a couple of reasons. It commits the government, your government, to over $162 million. Also, there's a signature on that letter. And if that is the minister's signature, and if he didn't sign it, that means we're talking about forgery and so on. So it's a very, very serious matter. And I've heard the minister, and he's, in my opinion, basically, not, committing himself one way or the other to say whether this is genuine or not. So, as the Prime Minister, what do you have to say on this matter? Would you like to clear the air? Because in our opinion, well, in my opinion, I think Mr. Joseph has not really cleared the air on this particular issue, which is very, very serious.
So, a couple of things. When I was asked about the question, first of all, I indicated that the projects that this letter was purporting to be funding are being done. The St. Jude's is being done funded by the Taiwanese, and also the police headquarters are also being funded either by Taiwanese or by NIC. Okay, so there is no other source of the monies. All right, so that letter is irrelevant in that regard. The second thing is that the way that the process works is if you want to be able to get funding from a government, that a ministry can go out and get a deal, but it has to come back to the Minister of Finance. It is analyzed by the Ministry of Finance. So if in fact it requires a direct award, there is an analytical part that goes in by whatever the implementing committee would be. So for instance, if it was construction, it would go to infrastructure and say, here is the project, here's what it's purporting to cost. Can you please give us an evaluation as to whether it's the right cost or not? Once that is done, and the Ministry of Finance now says, okay, we're going to support it, if in fact we're now going to borrow the money, then it has to go to Parliament for approval. So those are the only ways that monies can get committed. Or if in fact it's going to be a bolt agreement in which the developer is going to provide all of the funding for the project. The land would be on his name temporarily until the project is completed and paid for, and then it's handed back over to the state. So as I said, I thought when people came to me initially, it was to dismiss it by saying that I have no idea, I've never seen that letter. Okay, I know that with regards to St. Jude's and with the police headquarters, where the money is coming from. And in fact, we've gone, or going to the Parliament, I believe we've gone to Parliament, to borrow the money. So, ministries cannot commit the government to any funding. So this idea that there's a letter floating out there that somehow that somebody can translate into money, that's wrong.
So you're saying that a letter could be out there, even signed by the minister, but it doesn't mean that it binds the country to whatever is on that particular letter.
Well, I want to clarify that. It clearly cannot bind the country. When I spoke to the minister, he's indicated that there's no letter that he has in his office with his signature that pertains to that. And I'm satisfied with that, because also I know that it was his ministry that was driving the process. So his ministry was the one that negotiated with the Taiwanese on both of the other projects. So I'm a bit complex, because that's where we were going, and the source of the amount that we're paying for the project, which is a 5-year moratorium, 15 years to repay, plus a 3.5% or 1.5% plus LIBOR. That's very difficult terms for anybody to be able to compete with.
But what about the other issue that if this is not was not signed by the minister, I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but just in case it was not signed by the minister, aren't you concerned that this could be a serious breach of national security? This is somebody has fraudulently signed the minister's name on a document.
You won't be the first.
And there you have it. First of all, kudos to Andre Paul for surviving Chasney's Gish Gallop, speaking about a whole bunch of stuff that Andre Paul would not know about, and most people would not know about, trying to muddy the waters when the focus is very simple. Did Guy Joseph, outside of the legal framework of St. Lucia, give Max Johannes, who has a company named Pajor, a letter guaranteeing that the consolidated fund and the resources of St. Lucia would be committed to repaying a loan if it went through Max Johannes, who is Bertram Johannes' Big Daddy, that we all saw coming to go to run Castries South. Big Daddy Bertram Johannes also has his wife working for Guy Joseph in his ministry as well. So you can see the incestuous ties of nefarious corruption and conflict of interest. But the illegality of it, Chasney is not concerned with. You know why that is, folks? Let me tell you why Guy Joseph is a genius, a political genius. Guy Joseph gave us a massa who treats us like he owns us, knowing full well that Chasney is owned himself by Sir Michael Chasney and Guy Joseph as well. So Guy Joseph is, in effect, one of the co-prime minister's prime minister. Chasney cannot do anything to Guy. The Siamese bubble is there right now. Guy Joseph can do whatever he wants. Guy Joseph can say whatever he wants. Guy Joseph can take whatever he wants. And don't think Guy is taking for himself, because Guy is taking for Chasney as well. That's also the genius of it. They are Siamese in what they are doing. And then comes the admission.
I cannot verify where this letter came from. It bears my signature, as I see, of a picture of something on the internet. There's so much happening.
When I spoke to the minister, he's indicated that there's no letter that he has in his office with his signature that pertains to that.
Mr. Speaker, I am going to say again, I signed Pajor a letter. I am going to say again, I signed Pajor a letter. I signed Pajor a letter, but I didn't sign for a vehicle that was belonging to the state. I signed Pajor a letter.
So where are we now? This is the part that I can't get. The fellas just thieving and thieving and thieving. So you steal $8 million, you need 9. When you get 9, you need 10, you need 100, you need 500, you need everything. More and more and more. Y'all just have to keep taking. Nancy has to keep taking. Sarah has to keep taking. Guy has to keep taking. When they can't get it, they take loans. We borrow a $1.4 billion under Chasney when you add the rollover. And this is not even on the books yet. And the fellas even thieving so much that they're taking outside of their own authority. And then we are committed to it. Mike, let's listen again.
Him and Andre Paul recognize the seriousness of this letter. He recognized it. And he said that Guy, up to today, has not admitted one way or the other. Guy simply said that the letter is circulating in the media. Now, Andre Paul is right. Guy never admitted. Because on Rick Wayne, he said he saw the letter bearing his signature, and he went on to explain how easy it is to get someone's signature on a document through the computer. He went on to explain, he went at lengths to explain that. Well, folks, I can tell you, Guy Joseph lied through his teeth. He lied. The truth is, Pajoa used the letter, took the letter to a source in Trinidad, and attempted to raise the 62 million US. Yes, I lie. Magamati? No, me bashas no. No, Magamati. Pajoa would give the letter to someone, you all will see, to approach the bank, for $62 million on behalf of the St. Lucian government. Let us show the letter Pajoa wrote to the Trinidadian agent. Good. Mr. Hazley Wong, Trinidad. You see, hold on. Pajoa's Limited. Mr. Maximus, what's his name? Maximilius Juarez. Okay. Telephone number. Dear Mr. Wong, kindly use this letter as confirmation from Pajoa's Limited in appointing you as our resource representative to source funding for the government of St. Lucia, yes, you heard right, to source funding for the government of St. Lucia for the following projects costing 62 million United States dollars. 1, St. Jude Hospital, and 2, street lighting. We take this opportunity to thank you for your assistance and wish you every success in your future endeavors. Signed, Maximilius Juarez. So Pajoa, folks, is using the same letter that Guy said was circulating in the media and attempted to disassociate himself with. Pajoa is using it to try and get the $62 million. Metansa, when the bank responded to the request for the $62 million by Pajoa, rather than responding to Pajoa, guess who they responded to directly? No, not me. My name is not Guy Joseph. The bank responded directly to Guy Joseph. The same Guy Joseph who said he saw the letter circulating in the media. I lie? Let me show you the response from the bank that was emailed to Guy Joseph. It was sent from Answer Merchant Bank of Trinidad and Tobago to no other than the Honorable Guy Joseph. Put the bank's email response to Guy Joseph for me, please. Answer Merchant Bank. The Honorable February last year, the Honorable Guy Joseph, the same Guy Joseph who said he saw the letter circulated in the media. The Honorable Guy Joseph, Minister for Economic Development, Housing, Urban Renewal, Transport and Civil Aviation, Finance Administrative Center, Point Seraphine Castries. Dear Honorable Minister Joseph, Pajos Limited. We mama. The same Pajoa letter Guy did not know anything about. Answer Merchant Bank Limited is pleased to confirm its ability and willingness to assist our client, Pajoa Limited, with financing to meet its funding needs associated with the LED street lighting project in St. Lucia. Whoa, yo. We confirm that we are currently undergoing the evaluation process, which is at an advanced stage with a due view to providing a risk-approved financing offer. Please note that this letter does not constitute a binding offer of financing, and it is issued in the strictest of confidence. Pale Richard Frederick Oliwa. Trigger of confidence, for discussion purposes only. A binding commitment to provide financing is subject to the completion of negotiations regarding the terms and conditions of the financing package as well as the due diligence on the project. Please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned. Gregory Hill, Managing Director of Answer Merchant Bank Limited. Written directly to Guy Joseph. But first, when you want to talk about bombshell, come and visit me. Directly to Guy Joseph. I now want to hear the excuses. Because he answered neither here nor there. He saw it circulated in the media. And Pajoa has a letter appointing a third party to source money on behalf of the government of this country. And the bank writes directly to Guy Joseph. Folks, I'm awaiting the rebuttal on this one. I am awaiting the rebuttal on this one. I await the rebuttal. How on earth, without parliamentary approval, can Pajoa be given authority to source funding on behalf of the government and people of this country? How can Pajoa appoint a third party to be there? What they said, the resource representative. The resource representative to source funding. What exactly is going on in this country, folks? When will this institutionalized corruption come to an end?
Now we open up the phone lines. We can talk about anything that I've highlighted or anything else. I must admit, I do want to hear your thoughts on what the Pajoa letter and this now with Guy Joseph for 5727-588 and 4847-588. You know, we talk about constitutional reform, and that is to give a sense of equity in St. Lucia. But the truth is, one of the things that we desperately need, and opposition, if they do get into office, they will have to appoint and create a position of a special prosecutor. We must have the ability to seize people's assets, to stop bobblist companies in their tracks and investigate them. And we must have a Freedom of Information Act so that we can get to the bottom of who is who, what is what, and how are people tied together. When you can have a company that had $1,000 to its name, a guy that is just known as a low-level con man, related to a candidate, Bertram Johannes, Big Daddy Johannes, who is related to Guy in Bobble. And these guys literally are trying to take on our behalf, our money, their profits. They are trying to take loans of $167 million in a company that has $1,000 to its name. And we don't know. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm ready.
Okay, you ready? I'm going somewhere, but I'm going to make an introduction.
Okay.
Now, from last evening into this morning, people have been talking about honesty and St. Lucia being a Christian nation, and that has been said for a very long time. But sometimes I wonder how we are at such a statement. Because listen, Chris, is it because many St. Lucians go to church that we are a Christian nation? Because going to church don't make a man a Christian. Becoming a pastor don't make you a Christian. Becoming an Adventist or a Pentecostal or a Baptist, whatever, that don't make you a Christian. It's the relationship that you have with God, and the Bible tells you, by their fruits you shall know them. Now I'm going to Mr. Guy, and I've made this statement. I wonder how can a man like him, who's holding a high office in a church, calls himself an Adventist, have so many things surrounding him from long before that man came into politics. Wherever there's finance, his name has to come up. Now, every single one of us make mistakes in life. Every denomination have people in it, maybe that's corrupt or whatever. How you want to look at it? But for so often, things are coming up around him. And this guy have the guts to come on television. While sometimes he's speaking the untruth, he is grinning like nothing serious has happened. The man said on national television that he had to lie
and falsify
to the Taiwanese to get money. Now that sends me back to the church in itself, about the leadership of that church and the officers in that church to accept a man like that. Because to me, a man like that, all it does is bringing down the name of the church, the denomination, or whatever. And these kind of people give a bad name to Christianity. Because being an Adventist don't make you a Christian. Being a Baptist or Pentecostal or Catholic, that don't make you a Christian. Like I said, it's the relationship. Now, let me tell you, Chris, we in St. Lucia, if we are going to accept these things and make excuses for it, we are as guilty as these men, and that we cannot be Christians.
Agreed.
To be accepting those kind of dishonesty in this country and this nonsense that's going on. Now, until we don't make an example with these guys, they will continue, Chris, they will continue to do what they are doing. Chris, you hear one thing. Next week is another. The following week is... When will this nonsense stop?
When we make it stop.
Now, the SLP, if they are given the opportunity to govern in this country, I hope that these men come in with a different mentality, a different attitude, a different behavior, because it will make it look like all politicians are corrupt. When we know it's a few or a handful of them, I don't believe every single politician is corrupt.
Thank you,
So we really have serious work to do and change laws in this country, Chris, that we could guard this kind of nonsense.
We need to change laws, but
because
we need
that
to
is what
others.
politicians are fed up. And some people are behaving in ways that we have never seen. I'm not making excuses for them. But when people are frustrated, Chris, they do a lot of strange things.
Well,
are you there with me?
Yes,
my brother. So I think, brother, we need... What are you saying?
No, go ahead, caller.
Okay, so Chris, we need to do some serious work in this country, because every time this man's name come up in something, it's a big hoo-ha. A couple days down the road or a week after, that's dead. Until something else come again. Man, and that thing has been going on for a very long time.
Yep, we need
now look at how these guys are going. So many different denominations have politicians. You know, but I don't know why these guys' community, especially the Adventists, have so many of them that word corruption always comes up around them anywhere that they are in office. Not all of them.
Caller, like I said, I don't want to target. Caller, I don't want to target the religion.
No, I am not going to. I didn't say all. I did not say all. I said most of them from that community that hold high office, and a few of them now, presently, that this word corruption has risen along their names.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, caller. We have a couple calls that have been waiting for a long time. Good afternoon, caller. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. How are you?
I'm ready.
I think I see you ready. Christopher, I don't know how much bullshit again we can take. I think October is too far. Christopher, I've been listening. I serve God and I go to church.
But caller, the Prime Minister's father just said it's only 50 days away, so just give them a chance to finish all their projects. I wish all imagine if all governments if all governments used to have to finish their projects, Compton would still be in power trying to finish some of his projects now.
Christopher, we don't need nothing from them anymore. We don't need whether they finish or not. We don't need nothing from them. They just get out. Just get out. Imagine just yesterday I was speaking to my daughter and she was telling me, Mommy, you have to vote.
That's good. That is good. I think the whole country is tired of these guys, to be honest with you. Even those who say they support, they're tired of them.
Yes, I'm tired of these people. And then my daughter told me, I tell her, Wendy, I'm not going to vote. I don't want to vote. And she's telling me, Mommy, you have to vote. You have to vote. And just hearing the story about Guy, how that man is the devil himself.
Well, caller, you want me to tell you what's worse than that? There are people who will support these people just so that their party can win, even if the country continues to suffer. I do not understand. If somebody is destroying my country, destroying the economy, if somebody's committing high crimes with a smile, how do I stay there and say because, you know, it's like if I'm back in Chelsea or Tottenham Hotspurs, all of a sudden, that's how we reduced it? We've allowed ourselves to watch our country fall into disrepute just so that we can say our party win. That making sense?
Yeah. Well, if it's like that, they're thinking, trust me, they'll stay hungry and they'll die hungry and they'll die in the state they are, because we need to move all of them out. Not one should stay. All of them in it. All of them in it. And for me, I look at myself and I say to myself, but these people have wives, they have families. How they sleep at nights, how they speak to their wife, and how the wives have gained all of these things. How you could support our husband?
Caller, I'll tell you something. Caller, I'll tell you something very interesting that I watched with both Champagne as the top house slave, as one of them, and Guy Joseph's wife. Both of them said it, and a lot of them say it. They tell you they don't listen to social media. They don't think that. So they literally, they block everything out. They block all sense of truth out. Guy Joseph's wife is the biggest victim of bad PR, and she never speaks about all of the people that were impacted, the young people who still to today, 300-400 of them are in bad situations because of CHTTI and the loans that they took for a school that's not certified. And what they do, Champagne tell you, he don't listen to social media. He doesn't this, he doesn't that. So in other words, they have a willful ignorance which allows them to be shameless and to continue to go on. Because you know the worst part is, I bet you'll see Guy Joseph on Monday night, and when he come in like he's the holier than the Pope. He's coming in, well, and I tell that, like he's so righteous in what he's doing. That's the most amazing thing, you know.
No, Felucians need to wake up. I don't think we need to wait for October, because we don't need them anymore. We don't need nothing from them. The father self. He better go packing to go Shastley, go wherever they go. All of them go. We don't need them.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. We have a caller that's on hold. Good afternoon, caller.
My black brother.
Good afternoon. Black, red, any color you want to call me. Chauvinistically speaking. Talk to me, caller.
Let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
You must first understand the truth is what you make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right? To understand the thinking behind what is going on with the governance of this country. I mean, I am just so disappointed. I mean, I see these politicians. You know what I do now, Chris? When I see Alan Shastny on my television, I switch it off. Because I can no longer listen to a word from this man. A proven liar I mean, this man, by the time he vacates office, his legacy will be live. Now, you know, it is interesting because this upcoming election, Chris, speaks a lot to us as a people. What we accept, our morals, and generally who we are as a people. Because I'm saying to you, after listening to Mr. Frederick last night, and of course this letter, or this comfort letter from the government to Pajoa, from Pajoa to the Trini Bank and all of that, I am saying, what more proof of corruption do we need?
No, but caller, in fairness, when a sitting minister says and sits down on an interview and tells you that he falsified state documents to the Taiwanese, from there, that alone, they said, and people say, oh, guy never take a jail. If you had any credible leader that wasn't owned by Guy Joseph like Shasney is, that person would have been dismissed from cabinet forthwith, and we'd be talking about legal proceedings right now. Well, so they didn't take that letter.
You see, the thing is, it comes back to the doctrine, the Shasney doctrine. The truth is what you make it out to be. So when you have a leader who would speak such garbage, I mean, those who follow him, you can't expect anything different from them. But, you know, I'm saying this letter, first of all, the Bullfest man, or the Bullfest man, whichever you want to call him, I mean, he first said he had a bombshell, but I believe it was a bullshell, not a bombshell. Because last night's letter was the bombshell maybe he was speaking of. You understand? I think he was referring to eggshells or something. Chris, we cannot, listen, I just want this election, I'm saying, I just want this election to call for me to take that line and dip my whole damn hand in this ink after I'm done putting this cross. Because I am so sick of this bunch of crooks in our country. I'm no longer worried about my children's future. I'm saying that this land may not exist if these guys go to govern this country for 5 years again. And when I listen to these house slaves, okay, these ignorant and illiterate idiots like Champagne and Dr. Secret. I mean, I'm wondering, you talk about Dr. Secret, you know, I actually saw the man. And I thought, I'm looking for somebody, but I didn't realize it's a Malfini they call Dr. Secret. You know? And you know what a Malfini is? A Malfini is a big bird and a stiff little chicken. So it's a bunch of crooks together. You understand? I am just sick of this whole bunch, lying Nancy, a whole corrupt bunch, you know? My brother, I'm frustrated. Let me just give somebody else a chance. You have a nice afternoon.
You too, caller. Now, folks, just so it's said, that's where Panning Them has come in terms of channeling your frustration. This Sunday is Pan City, Castries Central. Everybody's asked to come out. Don't break the social protocols. Everybody's been asked to come out. Take your pan, and at 4 o'clock, everybody's going to pan them, right? One more time this Sunday, this coming Sunday, from 4 o'clock, whether you on the Chaussee Road, whether you Barnard Hill, whether you Sanssouci, and we're going to do a sound check. We're going to test for sound to see if the seat of parliament is in Castries Central. So we're going to make sure all those that don't want to hear can hear. And we're going to make the noise climb all the way up the Mon. And we're not breaking any social COVID protocols, because you can stand right outside your house, right in your living room, right on your balcony, right on your street, and you can do it. We have a call. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Christopher. Carlton Augustine here calling from the States.
Ah, yes, sir.
I wanted to just let your listeners know that I was the economist at the ECCB, responsible for writing the review on St. Lucia, so I'm quite familiar with the economy of St. Lucia.
Okay.
But the thing that really hurts me is this Pajoa letter thing.
Explain.
That represents what went on in Antigua in the 1980s under the Ver Bird Senior administration, where individual ministers were going out on contracting money on behalf of the government. At the end of the day, the guys in the Ministry of Finance who were responsible for repaying debt and managing the debt knew nothing about these obligations. As a result, Antigua racked up millions of dollars in arrears. And this is very bad for our country. Nobody wants to touch you when you have racked up arrears. And what Guy Joseph and company are doing is to bring St. Lucia into a situation like that of Antigua in the 1980s. And today, the present government, it is almost, we're talking about 40 years later, Antigua is still feeling the effects of what happened. Because I don't know if you remember, around 2000, Canada forgave the debt of all the OECS countries, excepting Antigua and Grenada. The reason why? Because these countries had arrears on the debt. So not only will you not be able to borrow when you rack up arrears, but no one will want to touch you. So we're in a very precarious and bad situation.
But caller, can I ask you a question? As somebody who has served on our behalf in the ECCB, you've obviously done stints with the IMF, with the World Bank and so on, and even in the United States now. In terms of the agencies around the world, whether it is the OECD, whether it is IMF, do these people take cognizance of these kinds of actions? Do they register for those people? I mean, I don't expect them to come out and just point out that we have a bunch of bobblists and crooks around the country. But do they take note of that? Do these form part of their decision making when it comes to countries?
They do, because one of the things, when I was at the bank, I had access to a document which said cross-border deposits. So money moving across countries, they do take a record. So you would see how many St. Lucians, say, had deposits in Switzerland, that kind of. So there are various ways in which they measure it. Also, they look at arrears, because what is going to happen is, because we cannot keep track of all that borrowing, we're going to build up arrears. And they do take record of this, and this affects your credit worthiness. So yes, they do. People all over the world are paying attention to this development. It also will show up in our corruption perception index. You know, this is the height of corruption. So we will see a lowering of our ranking in terms of corruption. So they do. Yes, not because we don't hear from them, but they do. For example, the US since 9/11 has ways of tracking money. So any money coming from that bank in Trinidad typically has to go through a correspondent bank in the US, and they would. And in certain instances, they would stop that flow of money. So yes, they do.
So then, caller, one final question as I have you there. I want to profit the opportunity. When I heard from somebody, I can't mention the source, that one of the things that's happened, if we look at this last 5 years, no truly legitimate investors have come to St. Lucia under the Chasney administration. And they're saying that once the word gets out that a government is basically a corrupt government, that it chases away a lot of the legitimate investors. Is that something that I'm just speaking out of turn here, or is that a legitimate thing that happens behind the scenes?
It happens behind the scenes. And not only corruption, but they look at your fiscal management. So that's the reason why Sir John was able to attract people like Hess. And under Kenny Anthony, we saw hotels coming in. So investors look at one thing, your fiscal management and the level of corruption. And most legitimate investors will not want to deal with a government that is corrupt. So it poses problems for us down the road. You know?
Wow.
It's very serious, Christopher. I don't think St. Lucians are aware of the state we are in.
Caller, thank you very much. I suspect we'll be needing your expertise even more moving forward, because I think St. Lucians are sort of bamboozled by just the sheer alacrity with which the corruption is proceeding. It's almost like it's a supermarket sweep that they're trying to do of the country before elections.
It's like, Christopher, we have Weber Sr. running our St. Lucia. That's exactly what happened. I mean, Antigua was the butt of jokes at all conferences. But in fact, Weber Sr. used to boast that you could arrest a man for not paying his debt, but you cannot arrest a country. So I guess we'll soon hear this on Sky FM. that they cannot arrest us for not paying our debt, you know.
Wow.
Thank you for taking my call, Christopher.
Thank you very much, and I hope you do find the time to call again. Folks, I think we'll end here, but this is just the beginning. Oh, we have a call. Sorry, caller. I did not know we had another call holding. Let's make this our final call. Good afternoon, caller. Thank you very much for holding.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, what I call to ask solutions. What I call to ask solutions.
You're listening to your echo, caller. Turn down the volume on your device.
What I call to tell St. Lucians, who voted for Michael Shastney? Who voted for Michael Shastney for him to be running our country? He's saying what's happening everywhere. And the tar baby, you remember before they used to have a tar baby when you put a coin inside of it. It used to nod their head. Champagne is just there like a tar baby. Like it's a coin they push and everything. Michael Shastney, he does his head nodding his head like Dharma Shastney is. Tell them, if they're so strong, tell them to ring the bell.
Agreed.
Shastney don't know what you mean of pun beating. You're talking about empty, but you know he's ass punning. Yeah, he's ass pun. He understand because he hear from there. Like I watch on Facebook a Canadian saying, if Canada had 10% of what Shastney do for St. Lucia, he will be glad. So I tell him to come to St. Lucia and live in his house if this man Shastney doing something good.
I wish Shastney would have gone to Canada to run for office instead. At least we wouldn't have that blight on us, boy.
All right, that was what I had to say.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. Now, folks, we enter in the weekend, and two things of consequence as I close. First is that for those looking for T-shirts, once more into the breach on Saturday, as in tomorrow, God spare, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., I will be I'll park right by the Vendors Arcade in Castries. I've not done Castries yet. For those looking for shirts, there are shirts available in Viewfort at Phenomenal Bar, Trisha's Bar, down on the promenade in Viewfort. We'll have some shirts there. And for those in Castries in the north, I will be in Castries from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. All the different shirts, hopefully all the different sizes, and we'll have some fun. And then Pan City on Sunday, 4 p.m. If you're not going to be able to be in Castries, then you can do it at home, record it, send it to me, 519-1818, WhatsApp me a little 10, 20, 30-second video. I'll do my best. I got like 700 the last time, right? But I'll do my best to put them all in. And Castries is going to rock on Sunday afternoon, Pan City. And in the meantime, since we're heading into the weekend there, boy, if I tell you, you're starting to feel that it's almost like there's a vibe of take them out. So let's go, let's give you at least one or two versions before we go.
Take them out, we are take them out. Take them out, we have no more money. Take them out, we've gone over since the country was broken, ever since the country was broken. Take them out, cause them care on we country, you know. We put them to sit, we don't see what them do for the 5 years. This are no politics, it's for the clinical, we sick and say we tired. We put them to sit, we don't see what them do for the 5 years. This are no politics, it's for the clinical, we sick and say we tired. This year me and the star, so me voting for the star. Taxi man I play it every time them jumping at them car. Use them votes we keep it close, but them actions I keep way far. Election time is coming, so the road is getting tar. What a scare, we continue to ill vote for the star. Spread the message, me say everywhere you pass. Me people are go support anywhere them are. Are you voting for the yellow? We say nah. We put them to sit, we don't see what them do for the 5 years. This are no politics, it's for the clinical, we sick and say we tired. We put them to sit, we don't see what them do for the 5 years. This are no politics, it's for the clinical, we sick and say we tired. We make this mistake once, so we not gonna make it twice. Election time is coming, so them try to play it nice. With them there, when we drink the water with the rice. Them treat us like dogs, so we missing this lice. Extract them like THC, but we don't need no ice. We giving them, but them no Christ. Them separate the money, that one there, no funny. Every minister in yellow, me say ready, get them slice. Them visit, we don't see what them do for the 5 years.
no politics, it's polyclinical. We sick and say we tired. We put them visit, we no see what them do for the 5 years. This is no politics, it's polyclinical. We sick and say we tired. This year me and the star. This year me and the star. So me voting for the start.
Now imagine, I can tell you, if the Labour Party could never have money to pay for these songs, and for artists who turned down $9,000 from Shasney and them to do songs for next to nothing and for nothing, because they feel it, they can feel the oppression and they feel the cause. It's bigger than the Labour Party. This is about St. Lucia and those who are going to vote for Shasney. Just imagine, you know you are getting bad governance. You know, but just for the sake of a party or for what other nefarious means or ulterior motive, that cannot be enough. Well, all I can tell you, I'm loving the variety. So imagine I actually have songs with the same theme, Take Them Out, coming from everywhere. And this one coming from Soufre.
Ring the bell, 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 ring the bell. Somebody say ring the bell, ring the bell. Somebody must go. Calling on my Labour people, please come out and vote. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Somebody must go. Calling on my Labour people, please come out and vote. Sarkozy they fed up, Kashwis they fed up, and Sorrel and Candice more people they fed up. In Soufre we fed up, Chosel they fed up. Look before Labi, look we say people they fed up. Somebody say ring the bell, ring the bell. Flavo they must go. Calling up my Labour people, please come out and vote. Ring the bell, Flavo they must go. Calling up my Labour people, please come out and vote. They move this step program, they move the nice program. No shipility, et la plapouti mama yapon. Pas fini l'hôpital, mi yo van tout chouval. Achal ma Flavo kadi se moun yo fay fe mal. Ring the bell, Flavo they must go. Calling up my Labour people, please come out and vote. Ring the bell, Flavo they must go. Hear that. Somebody say, if you feel that I voting for. Somebody say, if you feel that I voting for. Oh.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the hosts, co-hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.